They laughed at him. Not quietly, not behind his back, right in his face. The kind of laugh that makes you question everything, your decisions, your intelligence, your future. And maybe you felt that too. That moment when you try something different, something risky, something you believe in, and everyone around you looks at you like you're stupid, like you're about to fail, like you deserve to fail. He felt that. But what happened next is the part nobody talks about, because the same people who laughed weren't laughing for long. Here's the strange thing about money. Nobody actually knows what they're doing, but everyone pretends they do. Your friends, your coworkers, even your family. They'll confidently tell you what's safe, what's smart, what's a bad idea. But if you look closely, most of them are stuck. Same income, same stress, same quiet frustration, year after year. And yet, they're the loudest voices when you try something new. That's exactly what happened to him. He wasn't rich, not even close, just an ordinary guy. Average job, average life. But one day, he made a decision, a small one. So small it didn't even feel important at the time. He invested in something nobody around him believed in. Not his friends, not his coworkers, not even his own family. They all said the same thing. It's a waste. You're going to lose everything. Why would you do that? And slowly, those words started getting inside his head, because doubt is contagious, especially when it comes from people you trust. But here's what's interesting. He didn't invest a lot. Not some huge life savings, not some dramatic all-in bet. Just a small amount. An amount most people would spend without thinking. And that's why it didn't look impressive. It didn't look smart. It didn't look like anything worth paying attention to, which made it easy to laugh at. And they did, over and over again. Pause for a second. Think about your own life. How many times have you had an idea, a plan, a quiet instinct, and you killed it just because someone else didn't understand it? Not because it was wrong, but because it was unfamiliar, different, uncomfortable. That's where most people lose. Not in the market, not in business, but in that moment when they let someone else's fear become their own. Back to him. Weeks passed. Nothing happened. No results, no proof, no validation. Just silence. And that silence, it's dangerous because it makes you question everything. Maybe they were right. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I should just stop. And that's exactly where most people quit, right before something starts working. But he didn't. Not because he was confident. He wasn't. Not because he was fearless. He wasn't that either. He just stayed. He let time do its thing, even when it felt like nothing was happening. Then something small changed. Not big, not dramatic, just enough to notice. A slight increase, the kind you could easily ignore. But it was real. And for the first time, he felt something different. Not excitement, not yet, just possibility. And that's how it starts, quietly, almost invisibly. But here's the part nobody tells you. When something starts working, people don't suddenly support you. They double down on the doubt. Don't get excited. It's just luck. It won't last. Because your growth makes them uncomfortable. It forces them to question their own choices. And most people would rather dismiss your progress than confront their own inaction. But the numbers kept moving, slowly, then faster, then faster. And suddenly it wasn't small anymore. It wasn't a joke anymore. It wasn't something to laugh at. It was something people didn't understand. And that's when everything shifted. Let's talk about numbers for a moment, because this is where it gets real. At first, his investment barely moved. Then it doubled. Then tripled. Then it did something almost nobody is emotionally prepared for. It kept going. And here's the strange part. The money wasn't the hardest thing to handle. The reactions were. The same people who laughed, now they had questions. How did you know?
Why didn't you tell me? Is it too late to get in? But what they didn't see was everything that came before. The doubt, the waiting, the isolation. They only saw the result, not the cost. Here's a truth most people avoid. Investing isn't just about money, it's about psychology. Your ability to sit with uncertainty, to resist the need for validation, to trust something before it makes sense to anyone else. That's the real game. And most people lose it early because they need approval, they need reassurance, they need to feel safe. But the market doesn't reward safety. It rewards patience, conviction, and sometimes being willing to look stupid for a while. Real-life example. Think about early investors in things people once laughed at. Tech companies, digital currencies, even simple index investing decades ago. At some point, all of these looked like bad ideas to the majority, not because they were bad, but because they were new, unfamiliar, hard to understand. And humans, we don't like what we don't understand, so we reject it, we laugh at it, we dismiss it, until it works. Then we chase it. Pause again. Ask yourself honestly, are you avoiding something right now not because it's wrong, but because you're afraid of how it looks, afraid of what people might say, afraid of being judged before you're proven right? That fear costs more money than bad investments ever will. Back to him. At some point, the numbers got too big to ignore, life-changing big, the kind of numbers that shift your reality. And suddenly, everything felt different, not just financially, internally. He realized something. It was never about the investment itself. It was about what he did despite the noise. He stayed. He waited. He didn't need everyone to agree. And that changed him, more than the money ever could. Here's the twist. If you asked him today what the best part was, he wouldn't say the profit. He wouldn't say the freedom. He'd say this: I stopped needing permission. That's the real return. The moment you stop looking around, waiting for someone to approve your life. Because most people never reach that point. They stay stuck, not because they lack opportunity, but because they lack independence in their thinking. Now, let's bring this back to you, because this isn't just his story. It's a pattern, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Here are a few things you need to understand. First, small investments matter, not because they make you rich overnight, but because they train your mindset. They teach you how to handle uncertainty without panicking. Second, time is more powerful than timing. Most people wait for the perfect moment. It never comes. But consistent action over time, that's where real growth happens. Third, you will look wrong before you look right. That's part of the process. If nobody doubts you, you're probably doing what everyone else is doing, and that rarely leads to anything extraordinary. Fourth, ignore the noise. Not all advice is equal, especially from people who aren't where you want to be. Listen carefully, but choose selectively. And finally, stay in the game. Because most success stories aren't about brilliance. They're about endurance, the ability to not quit when quitting would feel easier. In the end, it wasn't luck. It wasn't magic. It was a quiet decision followed by quiet persistence and a willingness to be misunderstood long enough for things to work. So the next time someone laughs at your decision, don't rush to prove them wrong. Don't argue. Don't defend. Just remember this: they're reacting to what they understand, not what's possible. And sometimes, the distance between those two things is exactly where your future is hiding.